One of nature's most precious miracles, a gentle afternoon rain shower. Arising from the moisture of the great seas, carried inland by clouds, brought to earth again. With the rain comes the promise of life, of regeneration, of new beginnings. It is the source, too, of another natural phenomenon, the endless journey of water returning to the sea, finding its way along brooks and streams, flowing on to form the small and large rivers of our land. And none is greater among them than the Mississippi. Discovering the size and majesty of the Mississippi hundreds of years ago, the American Indians called it Mechisebi, Father of Waters. Its origin is at Lake Itasca, high in northern Minnesota, gathering into it other rivers like the Missouri, the Illinois, the Ohio, the White, Cumberland, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Yazoo. The Mississippi River drains 1.25 million square miles of land in 31 states, 41% of our nation, as well as 2 Canadian provinces. Stretching out over a course of 2,340 miles to empty into the Gulf of Mexico. An average of more than 350 billion gallons of water are returned to the sea each day, enough water for the needs of a city like St. Louis, Missouri, for nearly 8 years. The land along the Mississippi's banks is rich and bountiful, and the river plays an important role in the lives of some 80 million people who live and work there, more than 1/3 of the nation's population. Yet, that's just the beginning. For the labor of these people, the products of their farms and businesses will reach out to touch the lives of millions more at home and around the world.
I'm a-moving, getting underway. Today's a new day, no time to play. I move fast, I move slow, got many miles to go before tomorrow. Well, I'm a-moving, getting underway. Gotta load it here and unload it there. Got people waiting, gotta do my share. Well, I'm a-moving. There's a piece of steel for a man down in Vicksburg, a load of coal that's bound for Tennessee. Got a belly full of grain, fresh out of Kansas, and some sweet, sweet sugar from a land across the sea. Well, I'm a-moving. Yes, I'm a-moving. I got materials for industry, things for the home, things to make life better at work or play. I move all night, I move all day. I'm part of the heart of the USA. Well, I'm a-moving. Yes, I'm a-moving. Yeah, moving. Lord, Lord, I'm moving.
Without the river, the economy of the vast midsection of the country could not continue to function or grow. As well as being a principal source of water supply for people and industry, the Mississippi is the supply line, the lifeline. All through the day and night, barges are unloaded, loaded, ready to travel again.
Now she's moving ahead slow.
On their decks and in their giant holds ride coal and oil to heat the nation's homes and power its factories. Gasoline and refined fuels for aircraft, trains, trucks, and automobiles. Iron and steel, timber and wood products, the tools for building and growth. Ore and chemicals for industry and manufacturing. Grains and foodstuffs to serve our own tables and to trade with our international neighbors. Add to these the scores of different commodities moving along the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway and pouring off ships calling from the Far East, from Australia, from Europe and the Mediterranean. From sugar to cement. From fertilizer to ferroalloys and spaceship components. More than 300 million tons of cargo moving from source to market on the Mississippi. Yet it was not always so. In fact, the hard-working river of today hardly resembles the river of years ago.
Well, it's difficult to visualize now, but you must understand that in the early 1800s, the Mississippi River was free. It went where it wanted to go. It did what it wanted to do. No organized attempt had ever been made to either one, control the flow of the water, or two, keep a channel open for navigation. So at that time, life along the Mississippi was at best an uncertain proposition. If you lived along the banks of the Mississippi at that time, you were faced with floods and the wandering characteristics of the riverbed. The riverbed might be here at your doorstep this year, and a mile away over there next year, or you might be underwater. If you were bold enough to put a boat on the river, a big boat, a freight boat, for example, you faced treacherous currents, shifting sandbars, and stumps and snags that could rip out the bottom from your craft in a matter of seconds. It's an astonishing fact. The average lifespan of a riverboat was only about 18 months. Yet, well, obviously, navigation persisted. Why? Because the river was absolutely essential to the survival and growth of the enormous valley surrounding it. It was essential to the westward movement, to westward expansion. It could not be done without. Well, recognizing this fact, Congress in 1824 charged the Army Corps of Engineers with the task of keeping the Mississippi River and other vital waterways in the nation open for commerce, and further, of increasing their usefulness. The engineers' first task along the Mississippi was to conduct thorough surveys of the river's course and to clear out the sandbars and snags which impeded navigation. Many people, later to become quite famous, were connected with these projects. Henry Shreve, for whom Shreveport, Louisiana is named, built and operated the snag boats that finally ripped out the treacherous dams of sunken timber. Robert E. Lee was responsible for removing a huge sandbar that threatened to turn the river's course away from St. Louis, leaving the city landlocked and stranded. Well, these early efforts on the part of the Corps of Engineers gave rise to a tremendous growth in navigation and ushered in the golden age of the steamboat.
To establish a reliable navigation channel in the river required imaginative ideas and tremendous effort. In a series of far-reaching projects, 34 locks and 29 dams were built to help the river step down from the higher elevation of its origin near Minneapolis to the lowlands near St. Louis, so that towboats and other traffic could navigate, even in times of low water.
The operation of a lock is very simple. It's based on the principle that gravity forces water to seek its own level or level out. So when a tow going downriver enters the lock chamber on the high side of the river, what we do is close the gates and open a set of gravity valves. As the water seeks to level out, the chamber empties and the tow drops down. Then we open the downriver gates and the tow moves out. Now where we have traffic coming the other way, or upriver, we simply reverse the procedure. So actually the locks are sort of like stair steps made out of water. You can go up and down as you please.
The activity here goes on 7 days a week, every day of the year. But operating the locks is only a small part of the job of keeping more than 17,000 miles of waterways on the Mississippi and its tributaries open for business. To get the feel of what's really happening on the river, you need to talk to a towboat pilot, a man like Captain John Rhodes. He's been on the river for more than 40 years and has seen tows grow from 2 or 3 barges to 30 or 40 at a time. Today, he is commanding one of the most powerful motor vessels on the river, with 3 diesels developing more than 10,000 horsepower, pushing 8 acres of floating cargo. Piloting the river has always been an art, because no 2 trips up or down her are ever the same. There's always an element of adventure here and a quiet sort of suspense. But navigating the Mississippi today is much less uncertain, much less treacherous than it used to be.
Well, it's the people that's criticizing what the river is today. It's just the people that don't understand. They don't know what's going on out here. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. If you'd been out here 40-some years, like I have myself, seen this improvement, then they would know. Army engineers got this dike system. First, they put the dikes in, then they revetted the banks, and they've got now a good channel where maybe they'll have to dredge once or twice a year. But before, we were lucky to have a 8-foot channel. A lot of us 7.5-foot channel them days. But since then, we've got practically no problems with our channel anymore.
Traffic on the river rarely ever stops. Most modern towboats operate around the clock. Radar, depth finders, and other electronic equipment help pilots keep their cargo moving even through darkness and bad weather. There's a new breed of pilot on the river today, young men who are following veterans like Captain Rhodes in a career that traces its origin all the way back to the packet boats and the steamers made famous by Mark Twain in his stories of the Mississippi.
I guess the reason I got involved in working on the river is that I like the independence, the feeling that I'm my own boss, I guess. It's a good way to get away from the hassle of the city, because out here it's like being on your own private island. Guys I know have tried it, a month or so, and then they give it up. They say, that it's too routine or too boring or something like that. For me, I can't see anything routine or boring about something that changes as much or shows you as many different faces as the river does. I tell you, you'll see some things out here you just won't believe. It's incredibly beautiful out here.
The character of the river changes midway. Below St. Louis lie towns whose names awaken images of the nation's rich and colorful heritage. Cairo, Memphis, Arkansas City, Vicksburg, Natchez, Baton Rouge, and finally, New Orleans and the sea. The avenue grows wider now, as the river gathers the volume of its tributaries. Dams are no longer required to pool and hold the Mississippi open. The water runs fast and free. The power of the river's natural energy is used to help establish the navigation channel and ensure its depth. Dikes made of wood pilings or stone narrow and direct the water's force to the center of the channel. The current helps deepen it and sweep it clean. Where necessary, dredging operations clear the bottom to maintain the channel. Sand and silt carved away by the dredge are pumped through a floating pipeline to a position outside the channel. When the water's force is directed against a bank, as is the case in a bend or curve, caving is a frequent problem. Revetments are used to stabilize and define the bank. One type is a unique, flexible mattress of concrete. The mattress is extended far enough out along the river bottom that the water can't cut beneath it. Miles of revetments have been put in place to control the river's tendency to wander and seek new channels. Another kind of control is the system of levees found along the Mississippi. These structures raise the height of the river bank several feet above what would be normal, helping protect lives and property in times of high water. Through the years, the levee system has greatly expanded the amount of land devoted to farming, recreation, and development. Yet, in spite of all these efforts to contain and control it, the river can grow ugly. As a case in point, consider the flood of 1973, one of the worst in recent history, and an ultimate test of the flood control plan on the middle and lower Mississippi.
Well, how it got going was just too much rain up in Iowa and on north of us. They had several big rains up in there, got our water high, and then it started to fall in a little bit, and they had another 11-inch rain in Iowa. And it covered a large area, and our water was already high, and the people that living out here in the country, they told Hannibal to get ready for 4.5 feet of water more than we'd ever had. I knew the levees couldn't take it. So everybody that I knew that moved, I told them to move. Well, they all taken my advice and they all moved, but they didn't move enough stuff. They moved what they wanted and left the rest behind, which they lost.
My brother said that there was about 2 feet of water out in front of our house, and I didn't believe him, so I walked downstairs, came up in knee-deep water. You know, I thought it was kind of exciting. Now I had something to do.
The Corps of Engineers furnished the sandbags. You wonder where all this stuff comes from. The Civil Defense furnished the sand. The people furnished their backs and sore hands. The farmers had the tractors and wagons that hauled the bags to the levees. Private citizens had boats.
In a major flood fight, the struggle on the middle Mississippi is containment. Sometimes sandbags are enough. Levees can be built higher if need be. Flood walls can be closed. New levees can shore up old ones. There are failures too, but even so, flood control devices contain billions of extra gallons of water, and every victory above means a new threat below, more water pressing into the lower Mississippi. The flood control plan provides tremendous safety valves to disperse the pressure.
On the 8th of April, the Bonnie Carey Spillway, located here on the left bank of the Mississippi River just above New Orleans, was opened to discharge excess waters from the river to Lake Pontchartrain. The spillway remained open for about 80 days, and in doing so, lowered stages by New Orleans by about 4 feet and kept them well within safe limits.
The control plan had successfully throttled the flood of 1973. Yet, in many ways, it was only the beginning.
Of course, after this flood fight was over and the river began to recede, we expected that the water would return to a normal level of low water and stay there. But that didn't happen in 1973. Instead, it reached a low point about mid-September, and then the river started back up again, and that certainly set the stage for another flood fight in 1974.
Beginning with the Flood Control Act of 1928, Congress has directed the investment of $2 billion in a carefully planned construction program of levees, flood walls, cutoffs, revetments, floodways, and other control devices along the Mississippi and its tributaries. And although much work remains to be done, the flood of 1973, 74, and 75 demonstrated that the investment has paid off many times over. The river is a giant with a mind of its own. Floods can never be completely prevented as long as it performs its essential role in returning water to the sea. As long as man chooses to occupy the floodplain, seeking plentiful water and good soil, raw materials and jobs, room to build and grow, he places himself within the reach of potential disaster. But by continuing the projects of the Comprehensive Flood Control Plan for the Middle and Lower Mississippi, the river's threat can be reduced dramatically. One important benefit is in the area of conservation. A controlled level of water and land free from constant flooding creates the stable environment essential for all forms of animal life to propagate and grow. Recent years have seen an important reawakening of public interest in protecting this life-sustaining balance of water, food, and cover for wildlife along the river. The results can already be seen.
Well, like I said, it's 1,000% better to me all the way around, because we've got good fishing, we've got good hunting, we've got good recreational area, we've got plenty of swimming around, there's plenty of skiing, boat riding. Sometimes on a Sunday here you'll see 300 to 400 boats go by. Where back before the dam was built, a lot of times they go by, you never see one boat, because they couldn't go through, we didn't have any water.
Just this one fact: the insurance of plentiful, controlled water has changed the complexion of the river from foe to friend. The Mississippi today is an important source of leisure time activity, placing millions within a half-day's drive of the fun and relaxation provided by water and open spaces. There are other changes too, changes in the way people feel about the river.
Well, I guess the most important thing is that we finally come to realize that this river is not exclusive property, you know. I mean, it's not the exclusive property of the shipping lines or the government. It's not the exclusive property of the environmentalists either. It belongs to all of us. And I think we know now that if it's going to be a better river, we're going to have to all work together. My dad and I have been coming over here to sail in this lake for years, and well, it's a hard-working river, but we're glad to see so many people convinced that it's a river that can be enjoyed and protected, too.
To man's awakened interest in the environment must be added the fact that the river itself makes a unique contribution toward conservation. For it allows us to economically move more essential commodities more efficiently and with less pollution than any other transportation source. The environmental impact of this contribution is felt every mile of the way, from high in Minnesota through the bountiful Midwest, and finally to New Orleans, gem of the South and last of the great cities along the river's course to the sea. Even as the day ends, its docks bristle with activity as the outpouring of fields and forests and factories cross paths. The work of the Mississippi is never finished. The flow of water is ceaseless, timeless. The efforts and inventions of man pale beside its boundless strength and energy, reminding us that the river is much less fragile than the lives it sustains and supports. But what is happening along the banks of the Mississippi today suggests the hope that man and nature can live and work in harmony, as this greatest of America's rivers daily repeats its return to the sea.